They got me feeling like I'm academics.
Real quick. We want to touch on this Durk situation. So, chat, I'm going to be honest with you. It's looking very hazy for Durk. It's really hard to tell what's happening or what's going to happen. On some fronts, some people are saying, well, we have some good news. On some other fronts, people are saying, no, this is incredibly bad. There's two ways to look at it, and you could look at it glass half full and glass half empty. And however you choose to look at it is going to be on maybe if you're optimistic already, so maybe we won't even change your mind. Let me give you what's going on. So Durk has gotten new charges, but there's another superseding indictment that just came down, a third superseding indictment that has eliminated two of his co-defendants. What does that mean? It's most likely two of his co-defendants, and they started out, I believe, with 6. It's likely that the prosecutors have flipped 2 of them that now have become government witnesses who are going to be snitching against Durk. Vonnie has been officially eliminated as a defendant. We haven't heard anything about him in months. He hasn't filed a motion. He hasn't signed on with any of the Durk's motion or anything like that. He hasn't been in court at all. So it is assumed that he is cooperating. Now, why does that hurt Durk a lot? Well, Vonnie is the person that flew on private from Florida to Los Angeles. Supposedly, he was the person that Durk may have conveyed some of this plan, if we're going by what the prosecutors allege, to get Quando Rondo killed. Does he have any of that on tape or something like that? We don't know. But seemingly, he's probably gonna get on the stand and say, "Yeah, Durk, you don't remember when you told me on a private jet that you got a 100 pack if me and the guys kill Quando? You remember that? You don't remember that Smurk, yo?" So it might be one of those. But still, I keep warning people. It appears that this case is still he said, she said. It's a bunch of talk. There's no smoking gun. And the people who are going to be getting up there and testifying, they don't have the best, characters or, track record. So you could get up there as a defense attorney and say, this guy's a documented criminal. He's the bad guy more than Durk. Look at his rap sheet. Oh, you know why he's actually saying this? He's cooked. If they did kill this guy, which the guy did die, but if they were behind it, my client not behind it. These guys did it on their own, but now that they got caught, they're trying to tie the rope around my client's neck. But Smurkio never told him nothing. Look at the wires. There's no wire from Smurkio to him. This guy's just lying on Smurkio to save his own ass. That's going to be your defense, right? But here's the thing. The prosecutor hears one person say it. Maybe you could, not a prosecutor, jury. Maybe you could be like, nah, you know what? Whatever. If you hear like 5 people say it, you might be like, hold on now. Keep in mind, think about the whole Big Jook case, or not Big Jook. Why do I keep saying Big Jook? Hernandez Govan, straight drop, and a Dolph case. There was only one guy who came out and said, oh, he's the one who set it up. That was the killer. That was one of the shooters. The other shooter, straight drop, actually denied the whole thing. And, there wasn't like 5 people telling. Remember, it was an anecdotal type of snitching. It was like, yo, I was at a trap house with the guys, and then Big Jook came in, and Big Jook told us he had money on Dolph's head, and we basically got recruited for a contract killing at that point, right? That was supposedly the story. And Hernandez Govan was the middleman. But now, apparently, the middleman is not, the middleman got free because only one person told that story. It'd be different if like 5 did. So we'll see. Anyway, here we go. The third superseding indictment is here. Give me a second. And Durk's team did put out a statement. There's a little bit more info here on. There's a little bit more info here on the evidence that they have on Durk. All right, let's open this up. They also mentioned that co-conspirator 3, which is like an assistant or something, someone who's booking flights. They're saying that it's relevant and they're not just a person only booking flights, which also kind of goes into maybe this person also is snitching as well, because they probably either got a proffer or something to prevent them from being charged. But the person who booked the flights, they supposedly provided evidence that in the days following or days coming, they used to be sending text messages about Quando to Durk. So it was something that it was constant conversation. They were tracking Quando's whereabouts. Okay, let's get into this. So the grand jury is now charging 4 individuals, and it went from 6 to 4. The 2 people who are removed are OTF Vonnie and Flocka. Okay, Flocka is from Gary, Indiana. He's supposed to be one of the people who, not too sure if he's one of the shooters, but he was supposed to be one of the people who were in the plot. He's been removed, and Vonnie's been removed. Now, I know people keep talking about OTF Jam. We don't know if he's telling, but we definitely know right now that Vonnie and Flocka are no longer in the case officially. So Durk is still charged, a.k.a. Lil Durk, Blood, Smurk, Little Dude. That's what they call him. Dee still charged, OTF Dee, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, a.k.a. OTF Dee, Threat, Big Threat, and D-Ski. David Brian Lindsay, a.k.a. Brown Eyes, is still charged, and Asa Houston is still charged. His name is OTF Boogie. Now, the charges are a little bit different this time around. So now they have murder in aid of racketeering. So they're actually involved in a racketeering charge. I'm going to try to explain to you in a little bit maybe why they're going down that path, but let's keep it going. So murder in aid of racketeering, conspiracy to commit stalking, and stalking resulted in death, and conspiracy of use of interstate facilities to commit murder for hire resulting in death. They also have conspiracy for possessing, using, and discharging a firearm, machine gun in furtherance of a crime, and yeah. Now, what the big change is here is that the prosecutors have taken a murder for hire case, which is conspiracy as well, and they've trumped it up into a racketeering case. Why might they be doing that? Well, a racketeering case is easier to prove. A racketeering case, all you got to do is prove that people are in what's called a racket. If they have been doing crimes cognizantly, planning stuff for over a certain amount of period, and it usually takes 2 predicate offenses, that is racketeering, okay? Now, you might also be saying, what's the difference between just racketeering and then, RICO, okay? Well, so RICO is racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations. And the main thing is that you have to establish structure. So you got to establish structure among those people for it to be a RICO. You could be in a racket with individuals, but it might not have that structure, okay? So that wouldn't be a RICO. It would be just racketeering. It still kind of goes well with or goes underneath conspiracy. And looks like they've pretty much almost came to a RICO charge for Durk. And by even mentioning racketeering and the conspiracy, they then give Durk's group a name, and they give that name to be, they say all of these people are going to be in an organization called, well, they're in OTF, but they're going to call them like Durk Associates or something like that. They're going to just make up a name. Here we go. After the formation of OTF, a subset. So basically it would be a RICO if they charge OTF. OTF would get charged with a RICO, but it's not a RICO. So they're only charging a subset of OTF, which they're going to call Banks Gang. So BGE, Banks Gang Enterprise. And they were going to be rewarded by the defendant through economic benefits, including money, lucrative opportunities, musically, economic benefits, and jewelry. Yeah. So let's go down to kind of hear what they're now trying to allege. Here we go. Now, what they do actually add to this case is they do confirm that Durk has tried to murder, in their story, Durk tried to murder Quando Rondo several times. He just failed. They're saying there was an attempted murder of victim 1 in Atlanta, Georgia on February 5th, 2019, where, among others, defendant Banks purchased, defendant Banks, DB, that's Davon Bennett, and co-conspirator. No, actually, this wasn't for Quando Rondo. I apologize. They're saying there was an attempted murder of who they're calling victim one, which is, if you don't know, this is another guy who was the actual victim of the 2019 shooting in Atlanta. I'm sorry for that. That time, Davon Banks, King Von was alive. So they said co-conspirator 6 was there. And so you had Durk, co-conspirator 6, and King Von. They say it was motivated over a dispute over the purchase of a stolen car. Specifically, members and associates and affiliates of Banks' gang, including co-conspirator 6, confronted victim 1 about a stolen car that the victim 1 had sold co-conspirator 6. Co-conspirator 6 demanded a refund. When victim 1 refused to pay, they attempted to rob him. After the victim 1 resisted, members of Banks' gang, including the defendant, produced firearms and began shooting at him, striking and wounding him. The murder of victim 2, which is a rival gang member, in Chicago, Illinois, on or about January 27, by, among other co-conspirators 7 and 8, which was motivated by promise of pay and to receive a reward from Banks and members, blah blah. The following murder, victim 2, happened, and co-conspirators 7 and 8 discussed obtaining payments. Now, if you're wondering who co-conspirator 7 and 8 are, and by the way, I had like a whole little list of who the co-conspirators were. 7 and 8 are now what's those guys? It's Stephon Mack's murderers. To charge Stephon Mack. Yeah, so it's Preston Powell and what's the other guy's name? And Anthony Montgomery Wilson. So they're 7 and 8. I've been hearing that 6 is co-conspirator 6 is none other than THF Bezu, but he subsequently died. Traplo Ross actually did like some deducing of that, and let me see if I could get him. Where did he? Okay. Maybe there's a short trap. Yeah, so co-conspirator 6 is supposedly, yeah. Here we go.
Paperwork just came out saying, okay, the paperwork just came out saying Lil Durk and individual number 6, co-conspirator 6, all right, and Grant, which is OTF Vonnie, says that those are the guys that organized the hit on Quando Rondo on May 21st, 2021, after he played his first show in Blackshear, Georgia. I've been telling you for a couple of years now that Lil Durk was responsible for that shooting. But co-conspirator number 6, people wondering who that is THF Bezu. Some people saying there's no proof. I'm going to show you the proof. 100% co-conspirator 6 is THF Bezu, and this is why. Because in addition to the attempt on Quando's life in 2021, they also added this 2019 February 5th situation. This was where King Von and Lil Durk caught their attempted murder charges in Atlanta. There were only 4 people there that day. Lil Durk, Banks, you see Banks, King Von, Davon Bennett, they got DB there. Co-conspirator 6, who I think is THF Bezu, but people are saying, how can you be sure that's him? Well, the only other person who was there that day was a guy called AAB Hella Bands, right? This happened in 2019, and then they tried to kill Quando in 2021, and they saying co-conspirator 6 was in on that. Well, AAB Hella Bands, he got shot and killed on May 14th, 2019, so there ain't no way that he's co-conspirator 6. So that's confirmed it, that THF Bezu was co-conspirator number 6, and he was in on the hit that where they first tried to kill Quando Rondo.
Okay, so essentially they're saying there was 4 people in the car. Vaughn's dead, and Bezu, so Vaughn's dead. Well, they identified Vaughn, and they identified Durk, but the other 2 people were AAB Hella Bands, and the other one was THF Bezu, and this guy got killed before, some of the attempts at Quando Rondo's life that came later. So they're saying the only person that it could have been was the other person in the car, which was Bezu, who literally was alive through all that.
Quando Rondo in 2021. But here's what I'm wondering. Why didn't THF Bezu get arrested with Lil Durk and them? If he on paperwork, they saying that he tried to organize a hit. Why didn't he get picked up before he passed away? Obviously, rest in peace to Bezu. You know, he's not here, but that's so strange. Like, why wasn't he on this case? It's super confusing.
I'll tell you why. Because they clearly had a bigger OTF case coming. Clearly. I think most of the stuff is collapsing into this case because Durk was going to be the target regardless. After this cleanup with Durk, yeah, you'll catch the individual guys for murder, but they're kind of also acknowledging that most of the top guys have been either killed or caught, right? So most of the top guys have been killed or caught and could be in that, you know, whether it's that O Block 6 indictment, if they're going to go back that far, or it could be some other guys who Durk has been affiliated with that either got killed or caught. So that's what I think. They're collapsing a lot of other cases into his case because all the main targets are gone.
But he was number 6.
Okay. So cool. So, all right. So this was the murder of Stefan Mack. And they said one of the co-conspirators sent a message to the other one saying, what's up with OTF? What you mean they're not paying? And it says, yo, we waiting for Banks to come up here. He come up here on the 17th. And on the 17th, he traveled to location where he did a music video for Song 1, which is Aha, and he got interviewed by $1 million worth of game. He brought approximately $1 million in cash to the location, which was displayed as defendant Banks was being interviewed at the time. Many members of the Banks gang enterprise were in the back, including Didi, Jones, co-conspirator 4 and 5, which, by the way, co-conspirator 4 is the one who gave them the drop. That's very interesting. So we now know co-conspirator 4. We always thought it was like a rolling 60 Crip. That was the 4. Wait, is it 4? Yeah. Yep. Co-conspirator 2 is co-conspirator 2 is the shooter. Co-conspirator 3 is the person who booked the flights. Co-conspirator 4, he gave the drop. Co-conspirator 5, I forgot what he did, but he was also I forgot what co-conspirator 5 did. Anyway, co-conspirator 7 subsequently created a social media post which they displayed monetary reward from Banks' gang and played an excerpt from his music talking about stalking and murdering a rival as depicted in the screenshot. As revenge for killing of Davon Bennett, the conspiracy to commit murder, and the attempted murder of TB in Blackshear, Georgia. So they tried to kill him in Georgia on May 2nd, 2021, by, among others, members of Banks' gang, including defendant Bennett, including defendant Banks and Grant. What the fuck? Why did I say Grant? I thought Grant got taken out of this. Oh, wow. There's a whole mistake here. There's a whole mistake. Oh, okay. So even though he's uncharged at this point, Kevon Grant, which is Vonnie, they still left his name in there because they can't tell a story without mentioning him. He's just not charged. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. Okay. So they try to kill him in 2021, and then they try to kill him basically a year later in 2022, and this included Banks, Wilson, Houston, Lindsay, Grant, Jones, and co-conspirator 2 to 6. Through phone calls and text communications, social media posts, and musical lyrics. And by the way, co-conspirator 1, if you don't know, was Durk, because there was an indictment already. The first indictment didn't have Durk in it. So they listed him as co-conspirator because I think they were going to leave Durk out there a little bit, but they seen that Durk peeped the play, was trying to dip out of Dodge. So they arrested Durk immediately and charged him with a superseding indictment. They added him and made him co-conspirator. They named him. Okay. So cool. All right, bet. The Banks enterprise will commit these violent. Okay. I don't need to really go too much into this. We're just trying to see new info. In some new info, let's see. Okay, so this is the third superseding indictment. It should give us a little bit more details. Okay, they say banks. So Durk would just place bounties on people's head. And he would tell these bounties to Didi. The co-conspirators would be recruited by Didi. And even supposedly Lindsay, Houston, Jones, and Vonnie were all recruited. Okay. At the direction of Banks, Vonnie went to get cars, ski masks, firearms to use. They used a credit card associated. OTF co-conspirator 3 did that. They would travel from Chicago to Southern California via airplane. So Didi did. Lindsay and Houston and Jones. I think Jones is Flocka. Then defendant. Okay, they would travel using a slider with a fraudulent license plate procured by Grant. Okay, so they were using Grant to steal someone's license plate or give them a fake license plate. They would then communicate via cell phone and track, including through encrypted calls. Whoa, these guys are using encrypted calls to coordinate logistics to find, track, and kill TB. They would fire multiple shots. So here are the people who shot. It's Lindsay, Jones. So remember, Jones, he's not listed here, is he? So now, look. David Brian Lindsay, he's listed. Wilson and Houston is here, but we don't see Jones. So this is the important part that you should know, chat. It appears that both shooters, other than Lindsay, who his name is Brown Eyes, the two shooters seem to be cooperating. So, big problem. You sent 3 shooters. The 3 of them did the hit. 2 of them are cooperating. How do I know they're cooperating? Well, one has never been named. He's always been co-conspirator, 2. And the other one that was named, Jones, a.k.a. Flocka, right? I believe it's Flocka. Durk. He's now been removed. He's now been removed. Okay? He's now been removed. Let me see if I could. Yeah, Keith Jones. It's Flocka, which also makes sense. The out-of-towners were the hit guys. So you see he's from Gary, Indiana. So supposedly the feds are claiming Didi would go get the out-of-town dudes to go do the murders. And there's this rumor that Durk would be recruiting, like apparently he was using like a few gangs. I don't want to call out their names necessarily, but he would use one gang for some murders, then he use the other gang for murders, and he would keep getting other people from these like gangs, but gangs that weren't really tied necessarily to him, even though sometimes you would see them with him, and he would just have them do the murder for hire. Okay? Oh, shit. Why is Herm calling me? Let me tell him I'm on stream.
Hey, what's up with it?
Herm, I'm on stream right now. I'm on stream. You want me to hit you back?
Oh, yeah. About to text you.
All right, bet. Text me. Yeah. Shout out to NBA Herm, you know. Okay. All right. So now we're kind of figuring out who's who. So we got 2 shooters telling on Durk. We have to assume. The reason why Durk's a bit fucked is this. The guy who got the, you know that one song like that Von got where he's like, yo, a Crazy Story. It's like, go get the remix to Crazy Story with Durk, where it said, go get the duct tape, the rope, don't forget the phones, get the this. He basically tells everything you need to go get the hit. Well, Vonnie's the nigga who went and got all that. Get the gloves, get the mask, get the guns, get the fake license plate. Vonnie supposedly went to do all that. When they landed, he flew private with Durk. He's telling. Then there's another one telling. The guy who pulled the trigger. 2 out of 3 of those men, they're telling. The person who booked the flights. Supposedly they're not involved in this plot, but they did things supposedly unknown to assist it. They're telling. So we got 4 snitches right now. And the prosecutors they have altered the way this case looks, that it's not, because here's where I think the prosecutors are having a problem proving. You have to prove murder for hire. And in a conspiracy, you have to prove that the person is in agreement and also is knowledgeable about this thing. What's hard about murder for hire is that if Durk never transfers no money to these guys, he never gives no explicit instructions, he never says, if you kill this guy, I'm going to pay you this. It becomes a lot of he said, she said, and like hearsay. And, you could have an abundance of people telling and be like, oh, they're probably telling the truth. But you still have that possibility that he walks free because you're putting a bunch of criminals up there that are going to face time themselves. That's snitching on Durk. So I think they gave lesser charges that they could get people with, like, for example, conspiracy to commit stalking. So them getting the location of somebody or following, but nah, turn here. Like, yo, we're in this car. You guys had a coordinated conspiratorial way of stalking. That's a problem. Okay. Yeah. So it appears that even with the multitude of people telling on Durk, what they want to do is they want to actually put the case in a particular way where they're going to get these guys for something. Now, that might be a good thing for Durk because he might be like, all right, you know what? Well, I have the best lawyers in the land. We're just going to call these people liars. Actually, I have a great alibi of saying, hey, listen, I went for podcasts. I went for work. Some of these things were set up way before. How would I know that Quando was going to be there? I didn't go with these guys. I didn't meet with them necessarily immediately after. And anytime when I met with them, it's because I was done with my business. None of this means I put money on someone's head. Okay. Music is just about entertainment. Like none of that is actual proof. So maybe that's why there's other charges coming in because they want to see like what the fuck's going to happen. Okay. All right, so here's a count one. So count one is this count one racketeering? Yeah. All right, and then yeah. Oh, so it's conspiracy to commit murder. Oh, never mind. So okay, so it's racketeering, but then conspiracy to commit murder falls under that. Okay, cool. And then traffic of controlled substances, huh? What? 2 is traffic of control. Oh, okay. So controlled substances is not drugs here. They're talking about guns. Okay, they're talking about guns. Okay, and count 2 is, what is this? I think this is just conspiracy. Well, we could just Google it. 18 USC 371. 18 USC 371. That is, what is that? Oh, it's just general conspiracy. Okay, cool. And underneath that is going to be conspiracy to stalk, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, and they have the overt acts here. Here's the overt acts. On November 7th, 2020, the day after Davon Bennett, King Von, died, apparently Durk texted co-conspirator 3 and said, you know I can't let this shit slide, right? I ain't letting shit slide. And said, Von dying turned me into a different animal. Following the killing of Von on November 6th, Banks used coded language to tell co-conspirators, including Wilson and co-conspirator 2, 4, and 5, that he would pay a bounty or monetary reward to whoever took part in the killing of TB. On or before January 21st, 2021, the defendant Banks filmed and starred in an unreleased clip of a music video titled Red Man, in which defendant Banks is depicted chasing shooting an actor who looks substantially similar to TB. And the video is depicted below in the screenshot. Okay. Overt Act 4. About May 21st, defendant Banks, Grant, and co-conspirator 6 tried to kill him, resulting in multiple co-conspirators following him and his entourage after a concert near Blackshear, Georgia. And they tried to kill him then. On August 8th, 2022, they learned that he was visiting California. Okay. And August 18th, the same day he flew from Miami to LA, that Banks and Grant could help coordinate the murder. The same day, Banks and co-conspirator 5 and 2. Banks and co-conspirator 5 asked 2, which is the shooter, to travel to Southern California later that day for the purpose. So they flew in the shooter the same day. 2 is the shooter. Defendant Wilson, on behalf of defendant Banks, recruited defendants Lindsay and Jones to travel to California for the purpose of murdering TB and helped facilitate such travel by, among other things, texting co-conspirator 3 biographical information about Lindsay and... Okay, so this is like name and birthday and shit. They used a cell phone number. Banks also texted co-conspirator 3, don't book no flights under my name. They used a credit card, an OTF credit card. They purchased flights for all these people. Okay. They confirmed to defendant Wilson via text that the defendants had the same airline tickets. Okay. All right, so everybody flew there. Then Grant went to get 4 ski masks from sporting goods store in LA. Now, it's interesting that it's 4 ski masks because the car that actually hopped out and killed Lil Pob, there was 4 people in it. There was a driver too. I think the driver was Houston, if I'm not incorrect. So the driver was Houston. Dee Dee was in a car following. So Dee Dee was in another car following. But it appears that their job was only to stalk, only to follow Quando Rondo. They were never going to pull the trigger. I thought, because there was 2 cars following Quando, I thought that whatever car caught up with him first was going to be the one that killed him. But looked like Dee Dee and them, they didn't even have ski mask. The 4 ski masks went to the guys who were in the car, which the shooters hopped out of. Okay, they rented a hotel. They met with each other and provided firearms. Okay. Including a firearm that had been modified to operate it fully automatic using a device known as a switch. He provided 2 cars for the defendants to find, track, and kill TB, a white BMW sedan from a rental company, and a white Infiniti with a fake license plate. That's the hot car. Wilson, Lindsay, Houston, and Grant and co-conspirators traveled in these 2 cars to a hotel where he was staying. After they went to the hotel, Quando left, so they followed the car downtown. Using the BMW and Infiniti, they tracked him down. Okay. Yeah, so this was the car Quando was in. This was the BMW here. Damn, that's crazy. They were like right behind him. On August 19th, using the BMW. Okay. Yeah, Houston. Yeah, so Houston was the driver. Houston drove the Infiniti to alleyway behind Beverly gas station and parked the vehicle so that the defendants could attempt to murder him. On this day, they exited the slider and used the firearms produced. defendants Lindsey Jones. Yeah, so Flocka's a shooter too. So Lindsey's Brown Eyes, Flocka, and co-conspirator 2. They exited the slider, the Infinity, used the firearms procured by Grant to shoot and kill Lil Pop. In the slider, driven by Houston, defendants Lindsey and Jones and co-conspirator 2 fled in the alleyway behind the gas station after they shot and killed him. On the 19th, they used a credit card to get airline tickets from San Diego to Chicago. On the 19th, they flew back to Chicago. On the 20th, in a text message, co-conspirator 3 sent Banks a social media post with individuals mocking TB's reaction after seeing SR's body removed from the Escalade, which was broadcast on viral news coverage the morning of his murder. In a text message to the number, co-conspirator 3 sent Banks a social media post about the Los Angeles shooting and the murder. Defendant Grant traveled to a Verizon store in Woodland Hills to get a new burner cell phone, including a cell phone with a number ending in 3853. They stopped using that number, and he had to communicate about the attempted murder of TB, which is Taekwon Bowman, which is Quando. On July 6th, they sent a group text to co-conspirators, including defendant Wilson, stating, "Deesky beat his murder. He gonna be more and more dangerous." Deesky is Deesky is OTF DD. Okay, my bad. All right. The same group message, Didi responded, he think he could break us down. Okay. So on August 4th, the defendant Banks sent a group to, okay. He says, including, so this is a whole year after it happened. Banks sent a group message to the co-conspirators, right? And he says, including the defendant stating that a suspected government informant and co-conspirator was just ready to snitch, blood clear as day. He gonna tell soon. You could tell that person's actually snitching because they didn't put their name in here. Well, I guess even if they were, they wouldn't put the name. Okay. On August 4th, the same group text message thread referenced above, defendant Wilson responded, he think he could break us down. Then there's another text message that says, beware of everybody, not just so-and-so. Then they also texted, as long as we don't break, they can tell him whatever. Okay. Now, you know what that means? They might be talking about co-conspirator 2. We don't know who that was. We don't know how long they were in police custody. Or they could be talking about somebody else. Could be even OTF Jam, but we don't know yet. On the 5th, in a response to that message, it says, yo, niggas out there already playing with folks' name. Banks referencing to Banks gang enterprise violence, stating, crazy blood niggas don't slide or hurt, motherfucker, leaving it all up to us. All right. That is the main source of the conspiracy chat. Durk is facing more charges and more cooperants. If you ask me what's going to happen, I think the government has put in a fool's-proof way of trying to get him for something. He might beat the murder for hire. I've told you it's not looking the best, but I could see him beating it. Why? At the end of the day, there's no dead to rights thing. They don't have Durk doing anything. They don't have Durk on the phone saying anything. They didn't have wiretaps up. They have messages that kind of seem coded and kind of seem to be alluding to certain shit, but you got to read between the lines. And How much do you know if that's really Durk that paid for whatever? So now you're going off the words and the testimony of the people who actually did the murder. And then the biggest defense going to be, yo, so you're going to listen to the guys who actually pulled the trigger, trying to blame somebody else? So I think Durk has a possible chance of beating that. However, going beyond that for these other charges, whether it's stalking or these other stuff, it now becomes very dicey, and he might not be able to beat everything, right? Again, murder for the hire, it carries mandatory life, especially when someone dies. Okay.